I feel like this video is purely a rant that I feel like I can't fully put on Instagram stories because I know that as an influencer, I'm very, very privileged. I hope the camera is like in a decent angle. Sorry, I'm using my phone for the first time on HD. So hopefully it works, or rather on 4K. But I don't really enjoy talking about this topic sometimes because I know that as an influencer, I'm in a very privileged position. Obviously, if you've been following me for a while, you know my journey, and you know it hasn't always been like, Instagrammable views and whatever. It's been a slow journey, like 10 years in the making. But honestly, I've noticed like this year has been a very successful year for me in terms of, actually, I guess in terms of everything, in terms of following, in terms of content doing really well, in terms of more publications. I've been in a lot more publications this year than maybe I think ever, actually, mostly due to my black hair TikTok that I did, and that was featured in loads of like women's publications and stuff. But every time I've gone viral, I know that there's like a backlash. I just can't believe, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's some topics I talk about. I know there's going to be a backlash. I know people are going to have something to say. In fact, I genuinely thought that my black hair TikTok would have way more backlash, which is why I don't even like talking about hair anymore. There's so many things that I've stopped myself talking about. I've literally kind of like self-censored myself because, especially in my YouTube days, I used to just get dragged for just talking about things to do with misogynoir and existing as a dark-skinned black woman. And I didn't want to experience that anymore, which is part of the reason why I have a Patreon and I don't really upload onto YouTube. I have been thinking about going back, but I don't feel safe on there. And part of me thought that I would feel safe on other platforms because of how other platforms have different algorithms, they're not as incel-y, but as we've seen with the whole Andrew Tate thing, I mean, you can have an incel community on any platform. This year I've gone viral, I would say 5 times. The first time it was like it was a black hair video, funny one. Second time it was like a aesthetically pleasing Instagram reel of me in a beautiful, it was like a beautiful cafe. And then the third time, similar type of vibe. I was in a beautiful restaurant, and I think the quote resonated with people because it was about expecting more from people in terms of how they treat you. And I can see why that would resonate with so many people. And then my 5th reel, this is just reels actually. I think this is 5th or 4th reel that went viral, and that's the one of me in front of the Colosseum in my pink dress, which is actually literally in the corner right now because it's going to a renter who's renting it for the weekend. So that went viral, and that had a quote about kind of similar, but I think that was more about boundaries and not, trying to fix people who are broken and allowing them to do the work themselves. And then on TikTok, I had the black hair video, and which I hope you've seen by now because I think that one had one of the biggest reaches. And then yesterday, I did a video on traveling in London and living in London. And I just don't get why people have to be so mean. I don't know why I'm not used to it by now. I don't get it. I've been on the internet for literally 10 years. I should be over it. And part of me is like, when am I going to just get it? When is it going to click in my head that I just shouldn't care and I can move through the internet with this laissez-faire attitude? But it's just not happening for me. And maybe I'm just more sensitive than other people. And I do think that developing thick skin takes time. Like it develops over time. And my skin is a lot thicker than it was when I first started. But as I said earlier in this video, I can see why certain videos can muster up a reaction from people. When it comes to black hair, as we know, black hair is very political, whether we want it to be or not. Everyone's going to have an opinion, especially actually black men. Black men have a lot of opinions of what black women should do on their hair. At least that's what I've seen. Whenever I get a backlash, it's usually a black incelly man being like, you shouldn't be doing anything to your hair, leave it as it is, da 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 da. They're the same ones that as soon as their hair gets to a certain length, they're rushing to the barber shop. Anyway. But I just feel like if I'm doing a light-hearted video, like, why is it being taken so literally? And one thing I'm noticing a lot is that like my TikTok on tourists in London is basically going viral right now. So you guys are catching like a raw reaction. This is like me kind of processing everything. But what I'm getting right now is a lot of people saying that I'm aggressive, that I need to calm down. Like, people are literally using the word aggressive, that I need to calm down, that I need to chill out. And if anyone watches that video blind to unconscious bias, like without any unconscious bias, all they see is a girl venting very comedically about a very common situation in London. Why is that being taken to be aggressive? It just makes me so sad. And I know, like, and being a black woman is so hard because you're always like taking into account how other people, consistently, how other people feel about you, how other people feel about your hair, how other people feel about your attitude, how other people feel about your views. And it's like, it's exhausting. It is so tiring. And like, I've been kind of clapping back, which I know I shouldn't. But sometimes it's so tempting because you're tired of being the good person. You're tired of like saying nothing or like ignoring it. Just ignore it. Like, let it wash over your back, like sticks and stones type thing. You're tired of that. And sometimes as well, there's a cheap thrill in biting back and being like, no, you're not going to talk to me like that. Like, why use the word aggressive? It's giving anti-black. Like, I've just been saying it how it is. I'm not going to paint around it. I'm not being like, oh, I'm not being aggressive. I'm not even like justifying my actions because I haven't done anything wrong. And I know if a white man said what I said, yeah, it would just be endless comments of, ha, 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 he's so funny, ha, 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 ha. When are white men accused of actually being aggressive? When? Even when they do mad stuff, like, even when they commit crimes, like, in fact, looking back, I'm trying to remember when I've ever heard a white man be labeled as aggressive, ever. And they're statistically the most aggressive, dangerous, violent people on this planet. When you look at all of the crimes that are committed, especially crimes against women, but all of a sudden it's black women who don't even make up a huge percentage of violent crimes. All of a sudden, like, you're being labeled as aggressive for talking about how tourists walk slow on the underground. And like, people clapping back being like, well, they've paid to be here. And there's an othering as well. Like, I don't know if I'm overthinking it. And I would love to see a social experiment of like, if a white girl said what I said and literally like, if she posted it tomorrow, I'd love to see what the responses are to just compare and contrast. But it's like, I don't like this whole thing of, oh, well, tourists have paid to be here. You don't own London. Like, if you don't like it, you should move. Like, there's an othering. It's basically saying like, you're not from here. And they have the right to do whatever they want to because they've paid to be. Do I not pay taxes? Do you know how much I'm paying in tax? All of us. And the more you earn, the more you have to pay in tax. So it's almost like it's rigged because you kind of just keep on earning the same. But the cost of living is going up. And people are like, oh, well, tourism is adding to the economy. The economy? We have one of the highest rates of homelessness in Europe. You want to talk about economy? We haven't had this kind of homelessness in years, in decades. The austerity cut, like budget cuts, no playgrounds for kids, no youth centres, no real support, food banks. People are literally choosing whether to feed their children or heat their house because they don't know if they can afford to do both. And you were telling me that tourism is helping the economy. Where? Where? Because I can't see it. The trains are still as slow as they've always been, but the train fares are going up. So what's going on? And even if it is helping the economy, people's salaries aren't going up. There's constant strikes now. Barristers have gone on strike. Obviously, as we've seen, the rail workers are going on strike. So what's the economy that we're talking about? Where is it? I don't get it. I'm not seeing the benefits, and I'm not reaping the benefits either. So don't get me wrong, this isn't really even about tourists, but it's definitely about this argument that we have to somehow feel grateful. And I do think that's racial based, because as a black person, it's like you shouldn't complain about anything if you're here. You should be grateful to be in the UK, and the tourists are making your life better as a black person. Without them, your life wouldn't even be good here. And it's like, when you actually look at the way this government is working, all of the money is going to their big pals, and they're giving them all the big contracts. And there's so much incestuousness and insidious behavior that means that the real people aren't even seeing the money. They're draining money from urban areas, as they call it, or cities, and they're giving it to the richer neighborhoods. So what's going on? Endless potholes, people can't drive properly. There aren't enough teachers. There aren't enough NHS workers. They said they're looking for they said they need 400,000 NHS workers in the whole of the UK. They're never going to get that number. They're never going to get that number. They cut the, the nursing bursary. I think they still have the grant, but they don't have the bursary. So it's harder to live full time as a nurse who's studying. The doctors aren't earning much. Some of these doctors who are starting can barely save to actually have a house. And you want to tell me about the economy? The economy is ruined, bruv. It's out. It's done. Inflation's the highest it's been in decades. It's just. And the Bible actually says this thing about don't have arguments with fools, because they don't even have the bandwidth to understand what you're saying, and you will end up just looking as stupid as them. And that's what I feel like I look like. But I don't know what else to do in terms of how to react to it, because it's like, what, am I just supposed to say nothing while all these people like say crazy things? Or just imply things about me because of my race and my sex, or rather my gender and how I choose to identify. Like, there's definitely a misogynoir that's undercutting some of these comments. I'm just supposed to just not say anything. I'm just like, it's really, really hard being a black, dark-skinned woman on the internet, man. I'm not even gonna lie. And to be fair, I guess that undercuts the privilege as an influencer, because at the end of the day, I might be an influencer, but I'm still black and I'm still dark-skinned and I'm still a woman. So it's not like it removes, like, that can take away, like, and negate the privilege, but it's not helping. And it's making it hard to exist. And it's just... And the whole capitalism of it is, as an influencer, like, you have to keep on creating the content, which means that for me, I have to keep on creating content, and which means I could possibly go viral, which means I'm opening myself up to this kind of treatment consistently. I don't know, man. I'm hoping I can find like a Jedi mind trick way through it, so that hopefully in a couple of weeks I won't feel the same way, and I won't feel like as passionately or as angry or like indignant. I think indignant is like the word, just like righteous anger about the way I'm being spoken to for talking about tourists who walk slow. Even in the comments, white people are saying the same thing. Sorry, Aslan's like, I feel like one of those mums who, like, you know, when they're talking and their baby comes up to them, they're like, I'm sorry, I get it. White people are saying the same things I am, but I'm being told to calm down. They're not going through the comments. They're not seeing all the top comments of people being like, oh yeah, I push tourists. Things like that. They're not replying to them. They're not being like, oh, you need to relax. They're telling me to relax. Boy. Rant done. I'm going to have lunch and I'm going to come back, and I want to do a video on the article about the rise of lonely men. So that will be out soon.